God be upon you on your awesome stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the new moon. Barak Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Atalanawa, Hakadash, Ba'Shalom, Thawada, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the new moon in peace. Thank you, so be it. The Ha'ayim Ma'ad, Asherayim Akkad, Psalms 121. Anya Harayim Ayanyam Ya O Hahayim Ma'ayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Shai Shamayim Wa'arataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawam Shashamaka Hana La'a Yanawam Wala'a Yayasham Shashwama Yashala Yahweh Shamaya Yahweh Tazalia Ayel Yam Yawamam Ashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarat La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamaya Makal Ra Yashamar Napasha Yahweh Yashamar Hawalakia Wabaaya Ma'aitha I Walam Bahasham Yahawasha Tawada Aman.
Psalm 121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. Shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, even forevermore.
Amen. Shema Yashrela, Hill Israel. Shema Yashrela, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Achad, Shema Yashrela, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Achad, Shema Yashrela, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Achad.
Deuteronomy 6 and 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatha, Thaba'a, Ratazamanka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Lathalanawa, Lakham, Yowum, Za Wasalaknawa, Kababatnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathanawa, Wala'a, Habayana, O Nasayawan, Abo, Alshina, Mara, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwat, Waha'ala, Wahatha La'aywalam, Amen.
Matthew 6 and 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debt, and we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
Amen. Ha'asherah Matazawaf, 10 Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Lakah, Alahayim, Akaryim, Alpanyah, La'ah, Daisha, Lakah, Pasol, Wala'ah, Daibadam, La'ah, Lakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayika, Lashua, Zakar, Ath, Hayawam, Hashabath, Lakodashwa, Kabad, Abiyakar, Wa'amakar, La'ah, Daratazak, La'ah, Thana'ah, La'ah, Thaganah, La'ah, Tha'inah, Shakur, La'ah, Thakamad, Ko, Asherah, Lara'ayika, Aman.
Exodus 23. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. I shall not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, hallowed. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy power gives thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ox, nor anything that is thy neighbor. Amen.
Shabbat, be seated. Barak the Yahweh. Hashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nethalanawa, Par Yahagaban, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha'ala. I might upon you in Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barak Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakharam, Abiyah, Wanara'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Shal, Shemayim, Wa'aratazah, Wakol, Dabayim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Arawan Noah, Ahab Noah, Hapalah, Yawaitazah, Yahweh Shah. Zakar Noah, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Anka, Yasha'Allah, Izana, Bana, Wasap, Yasha'ala, Al, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makwadam, Baba Kushal, Shalak, Mayaka'ala, Wahatazawadat, Alahayim, La, Magano, Rapano, Washamar, Alno. Ba'akwor, Shalat, Haroka, Shal, Yahawashai, Lanawa, Lalamana, Rabim, Kakama, Tabawana, Wada'ith, Shal, Debarka, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Thum Yad, Wa'iwalam, Amen. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Hathoarah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Awar, Lara'awah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Ethelanawa, Koran, Ha'ayol, Lakorah, Ha'ain, Shabbat. You see it. All right, it's a little better. All right, Shalom, Yasha'Allah. Just trying to fix this camera here. I think that's good. All right, Shalom, Ashar Kadash. To those who are on the live stream, teleconference line, peace and happy new moon, happy 8th new moon within our year. Come out of the 7th month where we had 3 high holy days, and now we're on to the 8th, right? So going to hold a service, go through a few scriptures, feast as we normally do, and then enjoy the day until sundown tomorrow. So this is Hayashra Kanash, Congregation of Israel. My name is Kahan Samak, a priest Samak, presiding over the service this evening. Most as well, everybody's in good spirits. You're able to enjoy it, the new moon, wherever we are, right? So just to touch on keeping of the new moon, because I remember a few weeks ago we had some discussion about some camps not keeping the new moon. Go to the book of Ezra. We went here during the Feast of the Tabernacles. I'm going to revisit here just to show in Scripture, one place in Scripture where we came back into our homeland and started to reestablish it. how we came back to keeping the law. So I'm going to go to Ezra, the 3rd chapter. Ezra, the 3rd chapter. I'm going to read 1 down to 5. So again, this is Ezra chapter 3, 1 down to 5. So this is Ezra, the 3rd chapter, in the 1st verse. It says, "During the 7th month was come, and the children of Israel were in the cities. The people gathered themselves together as one man to Jerusalem." So we're all in one spirit, trying to establish ourselves as a nation now, trying to repair the breaches and get things right within the nation. It says, "Then stood up Joshua, the son of Josadak, and his brethren, the priests, and Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and his brethren, and builded the altar of the power of Israel to offer burnt offerings thereon, as it is written in the law of Moses, the man of power," the man of the Most High, right? So reestablishing Jerusalem, we had to get the temple back in order, right? Because that was a common theme where, you know, we had to try to have sacrifices and things to be offered unto the Most High, right? That was a part of the law when the Most High gave the instructions to Moses on creation of the tabernacle and what those things, what their purpose was for. So to offer these offerings and things, and the trespass offerings, the sin offerings, the wave offerings, the heave offerings, sin offerings, all these things we knew we had to establish and be done in order to keep ourselves right with the Most High. While we didn't have that, then it became one of those things where we kind of felt lost, but we didn't have the backing of the Most High, right? So these men knew that they had to reestablish the altar within the temple of the tabernacle, right? Back then it was a tabernacle. So now reading on in verse 3, it says, "And they set the altar upon his bases, for fear was upon them because of the people of those countries. And they offered burnt offerings thereon unto Yahweh, even burnt offerings morning and evening," right? So we went through this before, that they wanted to make sure that they hurried and got the altar set up for fear of those countries, because they felt that if we didn't have that set up, that structure, that there was going to be room for people to come in and invade, right? We didn't have the protection of the Most High. So there were certain things that we knew we needed to do to express how we were joined to the Lord. Without having that, then we feel that we didn't have any protection, right? Any covering from the Most High, because we weren't doing the things that he wanted us to do. So they said, well, listen, we got to get this altar established, right? So in getting the altar established would then lead to other things, right? So it says again in 3, "And they set the altar upon his bases, for fear was upon them because of the people of those countries. And they offered burnt offerings thereon unto Yahweh, even burnt offerings morning and evening." It says, "They kept also the feast of tabernacles, as it is written, and offered the daily burnt offerings by number, according to the custom, as the duty of every day required." So when we go into Numbers 23rd chapter, you'll read about the different offerings that we offered on those 8 days. Sorry, say it again. 28, what did I say? 23, Salak. 28. We offered the different offerings on those 8 days. So this is what this is referring to. So remember, this is them coming back into the country, right? But they realized on the 7th day, with the people that they brought with them, because we're coming out of the captivity, everybody wasn't fully knowledgeable about everything. So they had to make sure that everybody was on one page. And these men went and start teaching out of the law only weekly, monthly, to make sure everything was firmly established. Now, after we kept the Feast of the Tabernacles, it just didn't stop there. It says in verse 5, "And afterward offered the continual burnt offerings, both of the new moons and of all the set feasts of the Lord that were consecrated, and of everyone that willing offered a free will offering unto Yahweh," right? So this was showing you that even back then, for those of us who are coming out of the captivity, who are coming right back into the land, they realized that not only on the Feast of the Tabernacles and the Passovers and certain consecrated feast days, but also on the new moons. So if you were someone who really didn't understand what it is that you needed to be doing, right here, it's letting you know when they started to come back into the knowledge, when they reestablished themselves, the feast days was ones that they kept as well as the new moons, right? So the new moons is something that we also kept or observed before the Most High. And there were offerings, burnt offerings. There was free will offerings also given on those days, not just the feast, but also the new moons. So if anybody was questioning whether we should congregate or come together on the new moons, outside of what we read in Samuel's, this lets us know that even back then, when they came together, when they reestablished everything, they kept the new moon along with the feast day. All right. So I'm gonna stop there on the 5th verse. Now let's go to Exodus. Exodus 12th chapter. One. The bar, if you can read that, Baba Kushan.
All right, Exodus 12:1. And the Lord spake to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
So now, as we're in the captivity, right, you would think that they probably would have known that this was the beginning of the months. But now the Most High had to come and tell them, nah, this is the beginning of the month, because we have probably been already following the Egyptian calendar, right? The same way here and where we are, we follow a different calendar, right? We don't follow the same timeline as the Most High because we've been indoctrinated with different beliefs and instructions on what we're supposed to follow. So same thing now when we all came into the truth. We was like, okay, yeah, the normal mainstream calendar says January 1st. But according to the Most High's calendar, we now have to figure it out through this timetable, through scripture, right? So it says during the time when it was in Egypt, it says this shall be the beginning of the months, right? So we now had to go and research and go a little bit back to say, okay, this is a standard now that we have to follow. This is the beginning of our calendar year. So we use this as a point of reference. So we usually always go back during the time of the Passover, because this is when this is relating to. Around the time of the Passover, we jump back a couple chapters to the 9th chapter. Exodus, the 9th chapter. And the 31st verse. Exodus 9:31. You can read that one as well, Gabar.
Exodus 9:31. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bold.
Right. So now when you read a little bit up in this chapter, you'll see that the Most High was plaguing Israel. He rained down thunder and hail and fire upon the ground so that it started to destroy some of the crops. So we're reading here that the flax and the barley was all burnt up. It was smitten. So now we kind of get a time frame of season, right? A time frame of season of when the barley and the flax comes in, right? I'm sorry, when the flax and the barley comes in, then it says the barley was in the ear and the flax was bald. What does it mean when it says bald?
The flax was not right there.
On to that good trusty dictionary. So while you're looking up that, this is key as far as for the descriptions of when the Most High is describing this beginning of the year. Because when you check out, when we get it, I'm going to go to in Leviticus, when we check it out, these things are very important so that we can coincide how we determine or get to certain holy days. And it's based on our approximation of the new moon, our approximation of what season the moons come in order to do those things, right? So here it says, the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear and the flax was bald. So now when we go back to Exodus a few chapters later, the Most High is saying, look, now at this point is when now you start beginning your months from this moon coming in. This is when you start counting from the times of when your months begin or your calendar year begins, right? So now let's go to Leviticus. While you're still looking at it, let's go to Leviticus, 23rd chapter. Chapter 1. Leviticus 23, 1 and 2, and then verse 4 is we're going to stop. So just to go back to flax was in the barley was in the ear and the flax was bald. It's just another word for saying that it was doing the same thing as the barley. It was bloom. It was in blossom. It was in season, right? Around the same time. So for it to be destroyed, right, it had to be, you know, right or in season at that time. So that's why it says it was smitten. So one was already in the ear or ready to be harvested, and the other one was blossoming at the time when the fire and the thunder and the hail and everything came down to destroy it, right? So when we read further along in Exodus 12, and we start talking about the Passover, we know that it's around that time when the barley season comes in, right? So now when we go to Leviticus 23 and 1, Choir Baba Kushah, if you can read that.
Leviticus chapter 23. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
Right. So when we start speaking to the children of Israel about the feast days, we're supposed to make a proclamation about them, right? We got to proclaim these like the same way how it's done in the world, but more so within Israel. Jump to verse 4.
These are the feasts of the Lord.
So now the ones that's going to be described in Leviticus 23 are the ones that we now had at that time coming out of Egypt. All the things that we went through at that time is what the Most High wanted us to have. Not saying that that's it, right? So you got some people who say, well, the Lord distinctly says that these are the feasts. We don't have to keep the other ones, Purim and the Day of Judas and Feast of the Dedication. All that don't count, right? But that's not true. This is what was happening or ordained at that time, and then it became ordained later on, the ones that followed on, right? Read.
Which ye shall proclaim in their season.
And where?
Their season.
In their season. So that's key. So when the Most High gave us that one in Exodus 12, this is the beginning of your months. So now the beginning of our months, the beginning of the new year had to happen or has to happen in a specific season, right? It'd be out of season for us to have the beginning of the year in the winter season, because that's not what the Most High described to us when we read scripture. So our beginning of our season always is going to have to happen around springtime. So this is how we reference that in the scriptures based on the declaration that the Lord gave us and then the supporting scriptures that gives us the season that they're in. So when we kept the feast of the first fruits, that was in another season, which was the wheat season, right? Then we go on to the other holy days. They have to be kept in their seasons, right? So now, go to, you guys see a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. When our barley grows, it's not growing over there in China. Their barley ain't growing the same time our barley.
In China?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I've never been there to know if it grows there. I can't answer that.
All right, well, pick some place that you've been. Who is saying that the same crop is not going to grow at the same time? Because over here it may be cold, over here it may be warm, right?
That's true.
Okay, so they would still keep it in their season when that goes, and we would keep it us.
So now, as a point of reference, our point of reference is always going to be what? Jerusalem, because that's what we read in the scriptures at. So now, if I'm in Alaska, right, and maybe I don't have a spring season, right, because they have like 6 months, one thing, and like the 6 months sunlight, how many months dark, so their whole thing is different, right? When you start going to the further north or the further southern areas. But now when we look at where we are in this geographical location to Jerusalem, they have the same spring season, right? We have the same spring season. Now, it may differ. I think Khan was talking about this over the weekend or on the Sabbath day, as far as for when it comes in because of time difference, right? Like 6 hours ahead or 5 hours ahead when it comes in, the new moon is going to be a little bit different. It's like sometimes if you ever watched the New Year's Eve celebration and it may be the 31st and they'll say it'll like the middle of the day on the 31st, you start seeing stuff on internet or CNN or whatever. New moon has already come in over in China. They're already celebrating the New Year, not the new moon, the New Year, same thing, but they're already celebrating the New Year. And you're like, well, it's just like 1 o'clock here. How do you mean? Because of their time zone difference. So then when we celebrating it here in, let's say, Philly, over in Cali, they ain't start yet because of time zone difference. So now we have to also take into account, depending on where you are, if you're in an area where you don't have like the 4 seasons, right? It's going to be difficult for you to start annotating it as it is like this because you don't have a 4-season crop season like this, right?
And that's why the Most High law was gearing towards Jerusalem.
Right.
That's why when we pray towards wherever we got it to at the four corner, we're supposed to be dressing the righteous act, regardless of where we are.
Right.
Right. So that we are in unison when we are in Israel, following it based on the
right. And then not only that, as you see in the scriptures, what was it promulgated to do? We always used to do what? Come back to Jerusalem to keep the feast days, right? That's why when you read it in Acts, it says what? These men came out of every nation, right? So they was leaving where they was at to come back to our homeland. We can't do that now, right? Because we don't have control or rights for all of us to just leave where we are and say we're going to go and keep and establish the feast days because that's not under our control right now. So we are now obligated to keep it wherever we are, right? Now, some people may just get on a plane and go back there and say, you know what, we're going to go and just keep it there because they have that privilege to do it. But that's not something that all Israel, to have it is set up and established in that manner, like how we do it when we read in the scriptures. It's difficult to do it that way. Until Yahushua comes back, it's not going to be done like what we've seen in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament. But you did have some, like Paul, when you read his travels, he kept it where the people were. He tarried there and kept it because he was establishing churches there. He was setting up people to be self-sufficient to do things on their own. And or he was just also sometimes restrained because obligation came in where it was like, listen, they want to be taught. They're having me tarried, or the conditions prevented him from traveling back to Jerusalem all the time. But that's what we did. So we use that as our point of reference. So now if it was winter season in Jerusalem when we are having our spring season, then it'd be kind of like different, but that's not the case, right? Around the same time is where we're going to see the same things going on, right? So that's why we use, you know, and it's to go back to what you were saying when we were doing the break or before the service started. Technology has its privileges as well. Whereas because I'm not physically there, I can still go and check out and see what's probably going on in that region just by checking out things that's online, because we're so all connected via the internet or via, you know, technology. We can check those things to confirm. But now let's just say we didn't have that. Let's just say I didn't know what the heck is going on in Jerusalem. Let's just say I didn't know what season it was going on in Jerusalem, right? Go to Judges. This is where this falls in. Judges 5:11. We went through this last Tuesday. Judges 5:11. Read that, Gabar.
All right, Judges 5:11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his village in Israel.
So now, what is that talking about? Remember, we went through this before, if you remember.
Rehearsing the righteous acts. So unless they're talking about us during the holy days.
That's that verse is talking about us just keeping the holy days?
Well, it's probably talking about us just following the Bible, period. The whole Bible, doing what the Lord tells us.
But what's the verse talking about?
The entire verse?
The entire verse, because we went through this just a few days ago.
I got my notes.
You don't remember this off the top?
But I know some of it, like you said, delivered from the noise of archers. That's supposed to be the nuclear missiles.
Okay, right.
And the places of drawing water.
Places of drawing water is the land of our captivity, right? Because if you're drawing water, you're like a servant.
Okay.
Right. That's what we did to the Hamites that was there in the land. When we was trying to go through the land, they kind of put the whammy on us, and we made a vow with the Most High that we wouldn't touch them. And Joshua came back and said, all right, we can't do this, but we're just going to make them drawers of water, hewers of wood, making them servants, bondmen, bondwomen. So that's what we are talking about as far as for wherever we are in our captivity, we're going to be doing what? No, after the
rehearsing the righteous acts.
Rehearsing the righteous acts. What does that entail?
Following the scriptures.
Not only just following the scriptures, but that means that we're not going to be perfect in everything that we do, right? Because in a rehearsal, sometimes you mess up. Sometimes you're still learning the lines. Sometimes you're still learning your place. Sometimes you still don't have your wardrobe yet, right? That's like us. When I first came into the truth, like how you have everybody now wearing fringes on like all their garments and on their shirts, on their jacket. It wasn't like that back then in the day. Now it's like a normal occurrence where you see almost a lot of the camps with fringes all on their shirts, not just like their garments when they go to camp, but on their t-shirts, right? On their sweaters, on their hoodies. That wasn't like that in the past. It evolved into that, right? Because we began to rehearse the righteous acts. So as you rehearse, you get better and better. But that doesn't mean that even what you're doing is 100% perfect, right? We know we won't be 100% perfect. But what is the most important objective is that you are rehearsing and trying, right? So now if I say, like we mentioned before, if we keep the Feast of the Tabernacles and we measure out the new moon or observe the new moon so that we say, hey, the new moon is on this day, right? And then all of a sudden someone said, well, no, my new moon is 2 days later. And we keep two different Passovers or two different Feasts of Tabernacles on two separate days. I'm not going to point the finger and say, well, that brother's off because, you know, the new moon should have came in 2 days ago. And they're going to say, nah, by my observation, the new moon came in on this day, right? So let's just say like how you was like, well, I ain't see the new moon on such and such day. And you was in another camp and you kept the feast of the new moon 3 days prior. I'm like, okay, that's just, you know, that's what they observed. I'm not going to go tick for tack. It may be good conversation piece to be like, yo, how did you come up? Well, we didn't see the new moon. We was looking up. And I'd be like, well, if you going on based on what you've seen or how you seen it, cool. Long as you doing it, right? Okay. That's the main key. Long as you doing it. Remember, I'm gonna give you what I mentioned before. Go to drop that. Go to I want to say Philippians. Philippians 1:15. I'm gonna start at 14. Philippians 1:14. It says, and many of the brethren in the Lord, waxing confident by my bonds, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. Some indeed preach Christ even of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. So we got two different spirits that's pushing out the word, that's pushing out Christ. Some of envy and strife, some of goodwill, right? We would say we would only rather to follow or deal with the brothers that only deal with goodwill. Those who dealing with envy and strife, we don't want to associate with them. We don't even want to see them out there because they bring a bad name on us, or they bring a bad name on Christ, right? But a lot of that is betwixt different people, different camps, not of Christ. They don't envy Christ, so they try to teach it a certain way, but they don't have strife with Christ because they teach it a certain way. It's with other brothers, right? But they're using Christ teaching to get other people, but it comes with an ulterior motive based on how they view with other brothers. It says again, some indeed preach Christ of envy and strife, and some also of goodwill. The one preach Christ of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bonds, right? So that's the one side. One who's now going to do it, speak or teach to bring an ill name to another brother or to a different camp, right? And then it says, but the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. So this person or these brothers are going to advocate for me because they know I'm sincere. They know I'm set up that I'm going to go out there and contend for this truth. So then you got two different spirits on your hands. Verse 18, what then? So what are you going to do? How you going to handle that? What are you going to say about somebody in that regard? Notwithstanding every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached, and I therein do rejoice, yeah, and will rejoice. So in this token, Paul is like, look, whether they got this motive against certain brothers, but they still out there teaching Christ, I'm going to be happy that they still out there teaching Christ. What they got going on between the camps, I don't care about that, as long as they teaching Christ. Same thing here. If you got this camp over here saying we keeping the Passover 2 weeks prior to when we keeping the Passover, all right, cool. That's when they want to keep the Passover, long as they're trying and doing it, right? They preaching Christ and everything with it, cool, I'm all for it. Now, if someone goes against this and say, look, we don't have to keep none of this. We don't have to keep the new moon. We don't have to keep any of the laws. And that's now when it's different, right? Because that's not preaching Christ, right? That's something different than me having an issue with a brother per se. You're not teaching it as it is written according to how the Most High wants us to follow it. Brother thing, we're supposed to work out, right? That's why the Lord says it's during the holy day, like the Day of Atonement. You can't come keep the Day of Atonement if you have aught against any brother. If you have an issue with some brother, you got to go work that out. But let's just say prior to the Day of Atonement, for like 3 months, you had issues. But as it got closer and you started to realize and understand Yahweh's spirit in this, then you had to go work that out. But as far as for doing this, if you teaching it or trying to follow it or striving to follow it, I ain't got no problems, right? Now, how do we all come in unison? That's where we read in Ezra, the 3rd chapter, how they said they all came as one person. So what we've always tried to do when we in unison with the brothers, we got about 4 or 5 different camps that we try to bond with, right? So we'll have AOC, HOI, House of David, different camps that around the time of the high holy days, guess what we'll do? What day you got for the new moon? Oh, I got this day. Oh, I got this day too. Let's go find out from another camp. What day y'all got for the new moon? Brothers might say, well, I got the day after. What day you got? Oh, we're in unison with this brothers over here. We got this day. All right, cool. We'll flex with y'all. We'll do it because of unity and brotherhood. We'll all come together, right? That's kind of the reason why they had the council set up, right? The Israelite Council, where the council goes to different cities and states to kind of put a government involved, not just for holy day, but try to lay the groundwork for a lot of things going on. So even in those councils, brothers will discuss the holy days and the new moons. So if you saying, listen, brother, I ain't observed the new moon the whole week, right? Well, you got a council and 2 or more brothers that's there. What is on my face? 2 or more brothers that's there, 200 or 300, how many brothers that's there, where it's like, nah, I seen it. Well, you say, well, I ain't seen it. I looked and I ain't seen it. You got about 5 other brothers that's there, or 17 other brothers that's there, will say, no, I've been checking it out, right? And this is what it is. So based on 2 or more being gathered together in the same venue for righteousness' sake, you may say, all right, cool. If y'all seen it and that's what it is, and we all come into brotherhood, then we're going to all roll together, right? Because sometimes that's what the Lord is looking for us to be unified together with one common goal. So where there's a measure of error, there's a measure of, I probably got that wrong, or I know I got it right, but because of brotherhood and we all trying to unify and build a nation like we see in Ezra, then cool, we all going to have the same bond, and I'm going to give for brother, because this is rehearsal. Everything, this whole setup right here, right? Having that thing there, having this right here. I'm not saying that that's exactly how we did it back in the past. I'm just, we figuring it out. Even the pouring of the grape juice in the beginning, we used to drink it. We used to drink the wine. We used to pour a big cup and drink the wine. Remember those days? You wasn't there when we did this back? Yeah, that was the thing. We used to drink the wine. Brother, you know, instead of pouring it out in the basin, we would drink it, and you sit there, you're like, man, if your tolerance level wasn't enough, you was feeling the good. You was feeling a little good. You just drank a whole big cup of yayan real fast. Yeah, right. And then when we read in the scriptures in Ecclesiasticus, and they were talking about what Aaron and the men did, they said they poured it out. We was like, oh snap, they wasn't drinking, they was pouring it out. Yeah, we got to change that up. Then we start pouring it out, right? So that was just the evolution. That was certain things that we just came to understand over time, right? And trying to work and deal in the spirit. So that was Philippians, what I said, 1:14. What did I stop at? 18? Water. Go to 2nd Esdras. I think this is coming up this weekend. Sabbath service. 2nd Esdras 6. Second Esdras 6 and 45. Nabiyati can read that about Shah.
2 Corinthians 6 and 45. It reads, upon the fourth day thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give her light, and the stars should be in order.
Keep reading.
And gavest them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made.
Right. So here we see that there's a spirit and a vibration, even in the other creations of the Most High, where the Lord is commanding the sun to shine, right? And we know that the sun, based on what's in Genesis, was to shine as the brightest light that's in the second heaven. Then it says that the moon also should give her light. So now, even understanding how the order of science is and what we learned in school, that the moon doesn't really shine, it doesn't have an order of bright providing light, that goes against what the scriptures say, right? Where it says the sun should shine and the moon give her light. It's not as bright as the sun, but the moon also illuminates a certain light, right? It may not appear that way based on what man's word says, but the Lord's word says that the moon gives her light, and it has been commanded to do so. Not that it's based on something else other than the Lord put a vibration in both elements, both creations, to both shine at a certain volume. Then it says, and gave us them a charge to do service unto man. So the service of the sun and the service of the moon provided us a whole different element as far as for our calendar and time of day, how we tell time and how we order a calendar, because they go hand in hand. The sun and the moon both work in harmony with us to give us this calendar and date time group, right? We can't have date time without the sun and the moon. We have to have both elements working in perfect harmony, right? So the Lord is the one that gave us this service. It says, even from man that was to be made. Everything was made before we ever was created. The food was there. The elements to give us order and service was already created, right? Light, fish, birds, all of that was already done for the purpose of what? Man, right? Even the land was already formed, and then the Lord said when he created man, and then he came to one man and he felt that he was going to give his law to, it said he placed them in that area, in that region. He placed them in a specific place. So everything was already set up for us as quote unquote human beings on the earth, but specifically to that man and to that line, that lineage that was to come.
So if that's the case, how can they get to the without getting burned? With the coming from the sun, right? The bright the sun is, then you see how bright the sun can be and how hot it can be in some places, even down here. And the sun is thousands of miles away. That means the sun would have to be close to the moon at some degree, right? To reflect the light from the sun. So how can men say they go to the moon and not burn? If the moon, reflects the light from the sun.
But he said that the moon absorbs the light from the sun. And that's how the moon gives her light. So in other words, the moon is made of special elements. So if the elements actually absorb this sun ray.
Right, I understand.
That's even different, because I've just always was taught that it was just like a reflector. Like when the sun is shining, right, it's shining on the moon, and then when you view the moon, what you're seeing, the light that's on the moon is just the reflection of the sun shining on it. Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That's what the Bible said.
Right. Some things when you certain things, like when you hear society spin on it, the way it is provided to you or given to you, it may seem plausible, right? Like the way in which we're given Yahushua and the virgin birth, right? Now, it's not far-fetched for the Most High to provide or produce a child without a man sleeping. Most High can perform a miracle. He could do that, right? It's not to say that the Most High couldn't do it. Most Yahweh Shah's raised people from the dead, where people probably had never seen that, right? Sight to the blind, water to wine, so forth and so on. So it's not far-fetched that some of the things that man has tried to attribute to the stories that's in the scriptures, or its interpretation of the stories of the scriptures, it's not like it's way out of whack. What makes it out of whack is the scriptures themselves, because it gives you definitive explanations on how certain things had to be. It gave you a definitive explanation that Christ had to come in the earth a certain way. It gave you a definitive explanation that he would come for a certain people. And then gave you a definitive when he comes back, he's coming for a certain people. So if you didn't have that, if you didn't know that, then yeah, it seemed, yeah, he coming for everybody. Why wouldn't he love everybody? Right? This type of a person has to love everybody. It would make sense if you don't have the other substantial information to support it, right? So I could make up and say a lot of different things when you don't have substance to back it up. Now I'm just left to, you know, add my own interpretation or assumptions in or opinions in, and that's what we have. A lot of theories of things that people latch on to and believe is fact, where the scriptures is our fact, right? The Lord left the record so that we could use this as our point of reference to say, nope, that's not how he said it. He said it X, Y, and Z, and that's what we have to go off of, right? First Maccabees. Chapter 10. And 33.
The last time we were 10. Question I feel about on the third day, as far as making vegetation in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Now the great lights are made on the fourth day. So
Oh, yeah. Photosynthesis and all that. How do you have crops and trees and things growing without the light, right? Yeah. Right. Because we're only thing without this, only thing that we're left to believe is man's version of science. Well, as far as for the order and how the days of creation went, and how we have trees and things on one day, and then following that, the fourth day, when the sun and the moon and the stars were created, we're under the understanding that in order for the crops and things to have their being, you have to have light, right? So you look into the science behind photosynthesis, and all the things that allows things to grow is based on light. Well, if the sun wasn't there, how can you have these crops and things growing? I know we know that there was light, right? Because it starts off, right? So we're left with thinking that the light that we have only comes from the sun, right? That's what we're left with.
Oh, so that wasn't the sunlight that made those crops.
Right. There was light already prior to the sun being the dominant light that's in the heaven, right? That was the brightest light that the Lord created in the second heaven. But prior to it, you already had a version of light that was created, right? That's why sometimes if you pay attention, so it's good as we're talking about our new moon observation. Is good just throughout the months, randomly, periodically. Just observe the phases of the moon, right? Observe the phases of the moon from the time, let's say the new moon comes in. We're saying the new moon comes in around right now, a week from now. right? A week from now, go and see what the phase of the moon is, right? Go up, just observe the moon. And if you see it if it's not raining, it's a clear night in the evening time, observe what the phase of the moon is, right? And then 2 weeks from then, right, it should be what? Around a time of a full moon. So you just have to randomly, just for your own confirmation, just start observing it throughout the periods of the month as well as the year, to compare this month from that month. Because one of your questions as far as for, how many days there may be in a month, right? And Kahan was like, sometimes it may vary here or there a little bit, right? So if I started counting, I was very precise. I had some kind of instrumentation where I recorded it for the first month. Then I get to the 5th month, and all of a sudden I'm recording. I got a camera, put it at the moon, and I look at it, I'm like, well, it didn't wane at the same rate as the other month, right? It was a little different on that month, right? Yeah. Yeah, that may be the case, because that's what our point of reference is, the moon. Our point of reference was to observe it. Esau has now, through his technology, been able to observe it for so long to try to study the pattern of how the moon wanes and waxes throughout years. And then he starts approximating, right? He starts approximating and start doing the forecast, because for 3 years or 4 years, it's been doing such and such. Now I can start approximating. But at the same time, what Esau's approximation is, we still got to try to observe, right?
And the thing is, Esau, and he's clever, but he's saying that, people come up with questions. How can plant grow without, the sun, right?
Right.
How do they have greenhouses?
Right.
How do they have greenhouses? They don't need sunlight. They just put regular light, and then they make the plant grow. Right.
Because they had like a lot of the they got sometimes lights, certain type of lamps.
Type of lights.
Yeah.
Inside.
Yeah, inside the building.
For example, in places where you have winter.
Yeah.
Right, and then they have the houses and they cover it up.
Yeah.
But they provide certain kinds of light to make the flame go, mimicking the other lights at the flame.
Because it's a building in Newark that they renovated, that they have a whole company that produces vegetables, right? So they take a sheet, put the seed on there, and they have it. It's like levels and levels and levels. Like it can go as high as I don't know what, and they have different vegetables that grow over a period of time with this light, right? And the vegetables grow, package it up, put it in the supermarket, and that's what people are eating, right? So now that same type of mindset of a light, man would think that this is new technology, right? Like the Most High couldn't have had technology like this in the past to be able to allow that light to concentrate and grow the vegetation before the sun and the moon came there, right? That's why we are forced to believe that man is the owners of our own destiny. Like we control what was in the past and what is to come. Whereas it was the Most High all along. He's the one that's guiding us to do some of the things that we're doing, and we don't even realize it. Yeah.
How did they do it?
Yeah. So let's read this in 1 Maccabees 10 and 33. It says, moreover, I freely set at liberty every one of the Jews that were carried captives out of the land of Judea into any part of my kingdom. And I will that all my officers remit the tributes, even of their cattle. So this is Demetrius, who now, as we was going into various different wars and people are trying to make different alliances, they give us a little leeway and break, right? Those who have certain interest involved in order to have us on their side, right? They realize the power and might behind Judas, the power and might behind our power, and what was the Lord doing for us, and they wanted to have us as an ally. So now by us being in captivity, they figured that they would give us a bone, right? Give us a little crumbs here and say, you know what? I'm going to set at liberty all of the Jews that was carried away captives out of their land and brought into my kingdom, right? And all of their tributes and their cattle, remit it, like cut that off. Don't allow them to, don't you have to impose that upon them anymore. So now it says in verse 34, furthermore, I will that all feasts and Sabbaths and new moons and solemn days. So that deals with all the high holy days, right? Passover, tabernacles, first fruits, right? Then it says Sabbaths, our seventh day Sabbaths, new moons, the beginning of our months, and solemn days like Purim and Day of Simon and all those days, right? All this, and 3 days before the feast and 3 days after the feast shall be all days of immunity and freedom for all the Jews in my realm, which was key and a blessing, because now you would have the opportunity with no contention to prepare and set up for your feast day or holy days, right? Whereas right now, brothers will come to the feast day, or we as captains come to the feast day, and we coming to enjoy the day, but you know what has to happen? Brothers got to go to work tomorrow, right? You got to still go and put those 8, 9 hours in, right? Whereas you don't have the freedom to fully enjoy that feast week. Whereas right here, they recognize that with our customs, these are the days and times where we really want to have off and enjoy, because we come together on the Sabbath days, the feast days, solemn days, as well as the new moons, right? So it's like when you go to your employer, if you have an employer, right? You go to your employer and you say, yep, I need these days off if I'm able to have these days off, right? How many vacation days do I get, or PTO days I get? He says, oh, you get 2 weeks, or you get a month, or you get, this and sick days. So you start calculating and say, well, all right, cool. I got the calendar. I need this day, this day, this day. Whereas in this case, you didn't have to do that, because they're like, look, you got it off already, right? Don't have to worry about nothing. Matter of fact, you got 3 days before and 3 days after, right? So we will be fully able to celebrate the feast days, right? To be able to observe them and enjoy them. So let's just say we kept the feast of the Passover, the opening, 3 days before the opening and 3 days after the opening, we had a good, we was cleared. Then on the closing, that's a holy day. 3 days before that, 3 days after that. So we had a good maybe 9 days of enjoyment outside of the 7 days, because it was based on each holy day, 3 days after, 3 days before. So that was great. That's like a vacation. What we was doing it. That's gonna how it should be, or it's gonna be in the kingdom, because we're gonna start preparing ahead of time for all of our solemn assemblies that we do before the Most High. Not like now, but even better so in the future in the kingdom. So I just wanted to read that to show that even the heathen understood that Israel, or the Jews, kept all of these days, specifically feast, Sabbaths, new moon, solemn days, as holy convocation or sacred days before the Most High. All right. So I'm gonna get one more. See one different. Psalms 104. And 19. Actually, just write that one down. I'm gonna go to a different one. Psalms 8 chapter. So write down Psalms 104:19 and also Psalms 8:1 to 3. So I'll read Psalms 104:19. Says, he appointed the moon for seasons. Is the same thing that we read in the Apocrypha, in Ecclesiasticus, the 43rd chapter, where it says also in I think the 6th verse. that it was the moon was meant to serve in the seasons. It says the same thing here in Psalms 104:19, and it says the sun knoweth his going down. So when it says the sun knoweth his going down, it goes into the commandment or the charge that the Most High has given to the sun. The sun has a vibrational spirit that has been given a commandment from the Creator to perform a certain duty, right? Now let's go to Psalms 8:1. So it says, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. So when we consider the Most High, his name supersedes everything, right? His glory is above all, and his glory is above the heavens. It says, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. Here's where I wanted to go. I wanted to skip to, but I wanted to read it because the Most High controls even everything. And the Lord, when David and the rest of the prophets spoke, they even knew that the Most High himself had enemies, right? And it's not talking about Satan and the angels, because Satan and the angels are not the direct enemies of the Most High. It's the other creation that the Most High has put in contention with his favor or his chosen. Verse 3, it says, when I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, right? So when you consider how great of a creation, the sun, the moon, the stars, and then the vastness of certain things that man has not even been able to comprehend. Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, right? We still marveling over if there's water on the moon, right? Whereas you got all these other creations that still spread out, and they're still trying to send devices to even reach them and get a picture or video of it over a specific time. He's saying, look, when I consider the things that you created that's in the heavens, right, with your fingers, the moon and the stars that thou hast ordained, you have to really be breathtaking, right? We really don't consider it on a high level because we're still trying to grasp the things that's down here on the earth. We're still trying to comprehend the things that's within our realm, right? That's within our grasp. It's almost like Uriel talking to Ezra in the Apocrypha. It's difficult for us to comprehend the things that's set before us, and we don't know. So when you even think about what's going on in Jupiter, or what the purpose of Jupiter is for, what the purpose of Saturn is for, the Most High hasn't even given us that yet. It's there. It's not just there just to be sitting there. It's there for a reason. But we haven't even crossed that threshold yet, right? And you have these planets that are bigger than where we are. Your mind starts to wonder, like, how are all of these things in its existence the way it is? We're like a microcosm within that whole structure. If you just look at the place that man has in the realm of all of this, Esau will tell you there's realms, places, and galaxies and things we can't even get to yet. There's places that if you send something in, it'll just go. It's gone. A black hole. It's never coming back, right? And I'm like, hey, well, how do they know the depths of what this black hole is? How? How do they understand it? How can they comprehend it, right? So with all that, then when he says, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet. So even with all that's being created all around us, the Most High still has found man to be the apple of his eye, right? Israel has the apple of the Most High, the favorite of the Most High, the chosen of the Most High, of his creations, right? So now when you put that in perspective, it's like, man, we have so much far more to go. Like I remember Kahan mentioned this before. It's like even when we get in the kingdom, we're not going to sin anymore, right? The law is going to be within our inward parts, but that doesn't mean that that's it, that we won't still be learning and evolving, because we will have to continue to learn and evolve, because there's still so much more that's out there. There's still so much more information outside of just the law or instruction that we have to do. right? Even Yahushua, as perfect as he is, he didn't know everything. He doesn't have understanding of fully everything. Certain things have to be given to him. If Yahushua have to be received or given certain things, if the angels have to be given or receive certain things, what do you think about us? Right? What do you think about us? So we now, even in the realm of trying to understand these creation that the Lord has given us to be a service to us, right? Remember, these things are service for us. The stars are supposed to be a service or servant for us. We fully don't know how they're supposed to serve us yet. We got the sun and the moon, but you don't know what the constellations of the planets are doing for us yet. We haven't fully gotten there yet.
That's why when the Most High said we got to keep the law for our own good, some of us think we keep the law for the Most High to show it. And it's for our own good to get on that level. The Most High want to show us things, but we have to be on a certain level doing certain things in order for the Most High to show us.
Right.
Otherwise, we won't be able to see it.
Right.
Because the Most High is complete without us.
Right.
And He wants to, give us certain things so we can get on that level.
Right. It's funny because, like, when you go to Galatians, I'm gonna end off with this. When you go to Galatians, Galatians where is it? Schoolmaster. Galatians 3rd chapter, 25th verse, 24th verse. So Galatians 3 and 24. So it says in Galatians 3:24, wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we may be justified by faith. So it's like being in school, right? You in elementary school to get you to junior high. You go from junior high to high school, right? Then you get from high school, then you go to college. Then you go from college, you have a different branch. You can either go continue on in your learning to go to get a PhD or a master's, PhD, so doctorate, or you can go out in the world based on the educational path that you choose. So here, the law was our schoolmaster. That's where we started to learn. And we had to go through all of the different nuances and understandings and learnings and pitfalls and things to bring us unto Christ, right? All throughout the Old Testament brought us up into that New Testament that we read about in the gospel to bring us unto Christ, who gave us grace and truth. Now we living in Christ. Do we forget about the things that we learned when we was in the law? No. Nobody goes to high school and forget about the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. You just don't throw that away. That's what most people try to do. It's like, oh no, I'm under Christ now. Okay, we all under Christ, but does that mean that I just throw all that other stuff out the door? No, we don't do that in anything. You always remember or retain those experiences, those instructions to help you further on in life. So now here it is, we're under Christ. Now when we get to a certain point when we're found worthy, then Christ and the Most High is going to give us the fullness of that law, right? So we got to that point. But then guess what? Now having the fullness of the law where we won't sin, now we can go into the other realms, right? Now we can go into those other areas where it was already set up for us, but we couldn't get there until we had this established, right? That's why the Most High says corruption cannot inherit incorruption. You can't be a corrupt person and then start dealing with this other stuff. Nah, you got to get through this first. Once we now get through that level, then we can go start dealing with the other levels, right? Because that stuff is just not there just for show's sake. It's just that we have not transgressed. Even as right now, we probably consider, spiritual powers. We read about men calling fire from heaven and seeing Yahushua turn water to wine and do certain things. Well, those things are real. The Most High is giving a testimony on it. It's in the scripture, is written. But a lot of us is not having that right now. because we got to elevate to a certain plateau. Once we get there, now you're good enough to have the ability to have this type of spiritual power. Now you can have this at your any becking to say, okay, I need this to be called down. But now, while you're still going through whatever it is, we ain't ready. You're not ready for it. You have not gotten to the level that you need to get to in order to receive those things. We have not gotten to the level that we need to attain those things, right? There's certain things that we just don't even know about that's there, right? That's like when I think it was Elisha and his servant, and he prayed to the Most High that he could open up his eyes and see the angels all around. Imagine all of a sudden we get in the kingdom, and then you just start, now your eyes is in a whole nother level. You start seeing things on a different plateau. I remember before I was like, man, if we could really see somebody for how their spirit is and not just what the physical face is. Like if you look at somebody, you can see they're just wicked, they face is all ugly, right? Their inner demon, their inner spirit is really a reflection of what you see. Man, that'd be a whole different perspective of how you look at the world. As opposed to right now, we're carnal and we start looking, oh, she look good, but man, she wicked as all hell. You wouldn't see her that way, right? So there's certain things that may be at our whim, we just don't know about it yet. Or that's for us, that's not being shown to us yet until we get to that level. You know?
I was trying to get behind the scene.
Right.
To Peter's spirit, but Peter don't know what he looked at.
Right.
Probably thought he was looking at him, the person
right.
Peter.
Yeah.
But he talked to the spirit, Peter's spirit. Yeah,
right.
Get behind me, Satan.
Right. Because he had that spirit on. That's like even if right now we go out there, yeah, at camp and somebody in front of you, and you can see the evil spirit on you, say, listen, demon, devil, come out of this person. I'm like, what? They're gonna be offended. Listen, this guy's bugging out. You should have talked about, man, there ain't no devil. Listen, I'm on another level right now. I see the spirit that's on you. You may not recognize it, but I see the spirit that's on you, and it's not right. And they're not looking at it from a spiritual level. They're looking at it from a carnal level. They're offended because you calling them a devil, right? Peter had the spirit on him. I was speaking to that spirit, and we recognize that because of what he did. When the people had a spirit on them or a legion on them, what happened? Yahushua said, "Come out of her." Legion, come out of her, and it tore when it came out. And then they said, like the man who had a spirit on him, and the spirit came out of him, and after the spirit came out of him, then he was in his right mind, right? He was in his right mind, the scripture says at that point. But prior to that, no, right? And it was probably difficult for him to recognize it while the spirit was on him. Other people could see it, right? So for us, we will just now have to evolve to the next level. Man, that is a great expectation to see, right? Not only just for the kingdom's sake, right? All those things we know is there. Those are great things to want to attain and say we back in our homeland, we with Yahushua and all of that. So, you know, like the slogan brother said, what's we got next? I'm curious to see what's next. I want to see what's next.
You actually see the spirit. That's another level again. What the spirit looks like.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, at certain point in times, I think it's more obvious than others. When you see a person, sometimes you can just observe a person walking down the street. If you study them, you observe them, you can kind of see that there is a spirit on them, right? And just based on their conduct, you can start, you know, putting out what spirit they have. Oh, this brother got this type of spirit. This person got that type of spirit. Just on their normal conduct and behaviors. And then there's others where it may take a bit for the spirit to reveal itself, right? But it's one of those gifts that the Lord allows you to mature as you exercise this, right? Because some of it comes from experience personally and just dealing with other people, right? So then it says in verse 25 in Galatians 3:25, but after faith has come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster. So that was that first level, right? Now you come out of the law, now you're under Christ, right? We're under Christ, meaning we're learning in the behaviors or using Christ as the mold. Then the gift is we're going to be like Christ. It said we're going to have his body, and we're going to be in the glory like Christ. So then after that, then what? Right? There's another level. It's just not fully engaged yet because we got to get to this. Right? Pretty sure most of us didn't even have that understanding when we was in the Old Testament. We knew that somebody was going to come and save us. Right? We knew that somebody was going to come and be the savior, but we didn't know what that meant. Right? Same thing right now. We fully don't know what it's going to mean when he does come back. What our role fully is going to be. Right? Sure, we're going to have servants and things of that nature, but what's going to be the role of Israel outside of teaching them? What are we going to be doing outside of that? Are we going to be still going out here, or how long are we going to live? Is it going to be really 1,000 years, and then do we just transition? Like, do I just, the chariots all come for us at one time? Right? At the time we make it, does the chariots come and take everyone up and say, job well done, we'll see you in another 300 years or 150 years or whatever that is, right? So there's a lot of things for us to still perfect and get the knowledge on in the next kingdom. All right. But for right now, this is where we are. We're still under the schoolmaster. Later on, we'll be the teachers, priests, reigning with him, not under him, but with him. Right. As far as for how this order is. All right, so we'll stop there. Whoa, I didn't know it was that late. So we'll stop there, send up the closing prayers. Again, happy 8th new moon, Israel. Most High's will everybody is able to enjoy it. Even if you have to work, please just consider the day. Keep it and observe it as a Sabbath, meaning that you still can't go out and do your normal leisurely purchases. As well as free, all your normal stuff that you want to do, but still you can cook for the purpose of the new moon as a burnt offering to the Lord. So enjoy your day. All right. With that, we're going to say Shalom. Happy 8th new moon. Say for the closing prayers. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Af Yasha Allah. A Madra Panyoy Roslam, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kwashai, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Waha Allahayim, Tazwadakin, La, Shamal Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wahakazayak, Banya, Yasha Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'ai, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalanwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabim, Rabiam, Hagana, Rakhanaya, Rasalat, Kal, Katayamna, Laha Akim, Wa'akiwa, Wayasha'ala, Thumyad, Wayulam, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Thawada Amun. English translation: Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh, thank you. So be it. Four corners prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha Allah, Wabath Yasaparim, Shema, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Akkad. English translation. Blessed are ye, select. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us and Israel and the house of books or schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. Blessing of food. Okay, Yahweh, Karawal, Bahasham, Alawanya, Yahweh Shai, Babakwashah, Barak, Ma'akal, Yanawa, Shatayawath, Yanawa, Yayan, Yanawa, Zakad, Shal, Hakadash, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Thawada, Amun. Right? That we're going to say Shalom Yashrala, peace to all brothers and sisters throughout the four corners and those as well as those watching and listening online. So again, happy 8th new moon. Shalom.